Members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, the Worshipful, the Mayor.
Greetings everybody, it's really nice to see such a full chamber. I'm so glad to see you all here. I can see many familiar faces. And welcome to this, the council meeting of the full council of Thursday the 28th of March 2019. As we're still standing, and before we start the meeting, can I ask you to just stand for a moment and contemplate and send our condolences to all our friends in our twin town of Christchurch in New Zealand who've been through such a terrible tragedy. This council has marked our feelings and the feelings of the residents in very many ways. We've had a book of condolence, and I hope it's in the hall. I hope everybody present will sign it. Thank you. Just a moment's silence. Thank you. Now, remain standing and I shall ask my chaplain to say prayers. Thank you.
As we stand, let us pray. Lord God of time and eternity, from whom alone come wisdom and understanding, at the beginning of this final meeting of this Borough Council, we give thanks first for all who have served here since its foundation, as councillors and aldermen, leaders and mayors, and as officers of the council. And as we thank you for all that has been done over the centuries to promote the health, safety and well-being of all the people of Christchurch, so we pray that you would bless and guide all those who are gathered this evening to take counsel on matters pertaining to its life, mindful of its past, grateful for its present, and trusting for its future, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Oh, thanks, Peter. I've got too many clothes on. Right. Thank you, everybody. Before we start the meeting proper, I must ask everyone to ensure that their mobile phones are switched off or silent, and we would be very grateful if you would remain silent while the meeting is in progress. And can I remind everyone that this meeting will be filmed by the council, and it's broadcast live on the internet, and it will be capable of repeated viewing. So if you're seated in the chamber, it's possible that the camera will capture your image, and by your presence you're deemed to consent to be filmed and for the use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting or training purposes. Finally, another piece of housekeeping: we have no planned fire drills. If the fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the building immediately via the emergency exits. Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda, apologies. Have we any apologies?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No apologies this evening.
Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest by members. And members are reminded that any disclosable pecuniary interest must be declared, including any issues which may arise through the predetermination or bias. Any declarations of interest? Right. We move on to item 4, to confirm the minutes as a correct record of the meeting from the 19th of February 2018. I'm so sorry. Councillor Jones, did you wish to speak?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would request the indulgence of Council to make a brief statement. At the end of the last Council meeting, I made a comment which was completely out of order at a time when Councillor Spittle was speaking. I am fully aware that this was not an acceptable expression, and it was a particularly objectionable at a time when the Mayor was trying to enforce standing orders. I fully accept that I was very much out of order in this instance, and I wish to apologise, as I already have done to you in person, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Mrs Spittle, and also to Father Charles, who also, obviously, it was not suitable behaviour. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Spittle, did you wish to respond?
Madam Mayor and members of the Council, I thank Councillor Jones for his statement and apology. Following the small incident, he wrote to me within 24 hours and agreed to make such an apology at the next meeting. I respect him for keeping his word and hope we will be able to maintain cordial relationships in the new era we are entering. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Spittle. Now, can we proceed with item 4, which is the minutes, which was to confirm as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of February. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Flagg, I think that's you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to propose the acceptance of the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of February 2019. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder?
Second, Madam Mayor, but can I just point out that I did apologise for non-attendance at the last meeting and it hasn't been noted.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. I'm sure we will put that in absolutely immediately. Did you second the minutes, Councillor? Thank you, Councillor Davis, for seconding those minutes. Members, can we have a vote on the acceptance of those minutes?
Unanimous, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, members. That's cool. Item 5, announcements. Right, thank you, members. Well, since our meeting on 19th of February, which seems quite a while ago, I've represented this council at many engagements, and I'm only, as usual, going to mention a very few. One of the memorable ones was that Councillor Jameson and I attended a function at one of Hall and Woodhouse's public houses in Poole, and we met, amongst other dignitaries, representatives from my charity, Dorset Community Foundation. And actually, as you might expect, after the talk and the seminar, there was a buffet lunch and several sorts of beer. So that was a very, very good engagement. But on the same day, to show the variety of things that we do, Councillor Jameson and I attended church in Christchurch for the World Day of Prayer. And that was really, really interesting. It represented all the countries of the world in prayer. It was very, very well attended. And it spotlighted situations that you wouldn't think of in other lands. And there's one other engagement I do want to mention, and I'm looking at Brenda with this one, because this is giving a talk on the history of Christchurch and the mayoralty to a party of 16 students from Hiroshima. And we give these talks. It's a jolly nice thing to do. The students all love it. And usually, after the talk, after the boring bit, they get a chance to dress up in the robes. Sorry, councillors, your robes are hired out for that occasion. And all these students were not small, and they were boys. So I was a bit concerned that the dressing up box might not be very interesting. But they were so keen that they were jostling for precedence to get into the robes. So that was really, really cheering. And thank you for that. That was good fun. And because this is the last meeting that I shall chair as Mayor of the Borough Council, I'd really like to thank Councillor Jameson for escorting me to so many engagements, and for Councillor Hall's help with Mrs Sally Hall for being such an able and amiable Deputy Mayor. And I must thank the Reverend Charles Stewart for his unbounded help and enthusiasm as my chaplain. And may I also thank all the officers who worked so hard all over the council, and obviously our compatriots in East Dorset, but in particular the team that make the mayoralty run so smoothly. And I was hoping to see Susan and Sheila in here. Susan's there, right, because without Susan's smooth organisation and Chris and Sheila's smooth driving and Brenda's smoothness, we wouldn't have such a really good organisation. We've got everywhere on time. We've been received by the people that we're expecting to be received by. So can I please just now embarrass you? Could you come forward, and I want to pass these out to you, please, Susan. Thank you. And Brenda and Sheila. Thank you. If you could come up here, Brenda, because I'm not going to throw it across the chamber. That's a little token. Thank you. Thank you, Brenda. Now, why is Sheila standing there? Have I got to throw it to you, Sheila? I'm so sorry. Hang on, I've given Susan the wrong one. That's Susan's. And Sheila, Susan's got yours. Sorry. So this is the sort of organisation. This is the organisation that would happen if I had to do it and not Susan. So, and obviously I have one for Chris, but Chris is not here tonight. And thank you. And the other thing that I must thank Susan for is her really, really hard work on the charity front, and for everybody here who supported me in raising the money that we did for the charity. And the Dorset Community Foundation is going to receive the cheque, and all the money will fund charities here in the borough. So the cheque will go to the Community Foundation. Thank you. Now I'm going to ask the leader, did you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No announcements to make other than just to remind councillors that we still have a few more meetings at the BCP up towards the end of April. Both myself and the Deputy Leader will attend those meetings. Thank you, Madam.
Madam Mayor, thank you. You've kindly afforded me the opportunity to say a few words under item 10 on the agenda, so if I may reserve my comments until then, thank you.
Thank you. Now, I can't actually see where the Dorset Community Foundation members are sitting. Oh, right in the corner. So. Yes, I'll go that way, I think. Thank you, Grant. If you come up here. Thank you very much. And thank you, members, for all the help you've given in raising the money. Oh, yeah, shall we stand and smile? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Whoops. Oh, golly. After announcements, we're going on to questions. Item 6 was questions from members of the public. I can advise you that we have had no questions by members of the public for this meeting. Item 7, petitions by members of the public. The same applies, we have no petitions. Questions by members of the council is item 8, and I must advise you again that we have no questions by members of this council. Item 9, committee minutes. Members, I'm going to ask for a proposer and a seconder to receive the minutes of the committee meetings for the last cycle, which is marked 9A, and to confirm and sign as a correct record the minutes of the committee meetings for the last cycle, which are marked as 9, what does that be? Yes, right. Have I got a proposer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to propose as set out at item 9. Thank you.
Now, I wonder if Councillor Davis wants to second this, or shall I ask Councillor Jameson?
More than happy. Thank you.
I think we'll change the habits of a lifetime, shall we, Councillor Davis? Thank you. Thank you. So, members, can we vote on the acceptance of these minutes?
It's unanimous, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, members. Now we move on to item 10. Members, I invite you to make reference at this time to the individual highlights that have occurred to you in your term of office and to recount particular achievements and memories of Christchurch Borough Council. I think I go to the leader first. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Honorary Freeman, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, it is with a feeling of sadness for many of us here this evening, witnessing the last ever full council meeting of Christchurch Borough Council. I am sure that all of us will have our own memories that we will take away and indeed look back on in years to come. Like a number of my fellow councillors, I was elected in 1999. Without going into detail, these are a few of the points that stand out to me during the last 20 years. The reconfiguring of Stony Lane roundabout, the construction of the new bridge over the Avon Causeway, the revamping of the entrance to the town via the Bridge Street and Castle Street, the drainage facility from the Sandbank to Mudderford Quay, the construction of the Eco Visitor Centre building on Stampit Marsh, and the Christchurch Food Festival celebrating their 20th anniversary this year. During the municipal years of 2008 and 2009, I was elected as Mayor of the Borough. I am the last Mayor of Christchurch to have served 2 consecutive years in office. It was an honour and a privilege in every sense. I welcomed His Royal Highness Prince Edward, Earl of Wessex, to the Borough to officially open the Waterman's Park play facility. I had the privilege of visiting all 4 of our twin towns as Mayor: Sanlo, Tatabanya, Arnhem and indeed Christchurch, New Zealand. It was with great regret that as Mayor I attended the funeral of Royal Marine Neil Dunstan in the Priory Church. Neil was a resident of Burton. Some 4 years later, we were to lose another Burton boy, Royal Marine Sergeant Luke Taylor, both serving in Helmand in Afghanistan. Madam Mayor, much has happened in the last 20 years here at the Council. On a more personal note, I very much enjoyed my time as a member and chairman of the Licensing Committee. I would like to take this opportunity to thank officers and staff, both past and present, for all their hard work, encouragement, guidance during my 5 terms of office. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Flagg. I'm going to now call other members. Can I call first Honorary Freeman, Councillor Colin Bungey?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Unlike others, we all have fantastic memories of what we've achieved or what we've seen the borough achieve over the years. but I stand here tonight as the longest serving member of Christchurch Council. Excuse me. I've served the residents of Jumpers Ward in this borough for some 36 years. And it is with a sense of pride and satisfaction that in those years I have been able to help many residents. But today is one tinged with sadness. This ancient borough is one of the oldest in England and the most senior in Dorset, and is about to be made redundant. But those of us who can must make every effort to ensure that our borough's regalia, history and heritage is not forgotten and consigned to the scrap heap. It must be preserved. The borough's original mace, made in 1616, was sent to Southampton Castle for safekeeping in the English Civil War. It never came back. In 1664, a new mace was presented, and we must make sure that that, which is sitting there today, from 1664, together with all the regalia, remains in Christchurch, and we do not repeat the Southampton Castle incident. Although this ancient borough itself goes back 700 years or more, our history goes back to the Bronze Age and beyond. A few years ago, we prepared and had the celebrations in the town to celebrate the 900 years of the Priory Church. And indeed, Place Mill is mentioned in the Domesday Book in 1086. Christchurch has also been prominent in a part of English history through the years, from the early Viking incursions, the Wars of the Roses, the Armada threat, the English Civil War and the Napoleonic Wars, and also the First and Second World Wars. The people of Christchurch have always been involved, serving their country and defending this area. This town and borough has a very strong and proud heritage, and we must all strive to maintain and keep this heritage alive for the future. It is hoped that those who will sit as councillors in the new unitary council will do their utmost to achieve this, whilst at the same time doing the best to ensure that the new unitary authority, BCP, has a smooth transition and works for all of its residents. And remember the borough's motto, fidelity and freedom. And the meaning of the word fidelity is the most important. Just to finish on a point of historical interest, when Christchurch owned most of the land hereabouts, there were in fact 7 parishes. Christchurch East, which included Bransgore, Burton and Highcliffe, Folkestone, Sotley, Herne, Southbourne and Winton, and they were noted as rural districts in those days. So maybe what goes around will come around again, Madam Mayor. But I leave members with the thought that what we had here in the past must be treasured for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now may I call Councillor Mrs Trish Jameson, Deputy Leader of the Council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Honorary Freeman, Honorary Alderman, distinguished guests, members, ladies and gentlemen. Whilst in many ways this is a sad occasion, being the final meeting of Christchurch Borough Council, but we have so many good things and times to look back on, and I wish to remind you of a few of these. Over the past few years, we've built up some excellent relationships with local businesses by talking to them and supporting their needs. Over the last 2 years, we have held 11 apprenticeship events, which is more than the rest of the other Dorset councils combined. We've gained international recognition for our work supporting small businesses, and one of our team spoke at a prestigious OECD conference in Paris on the work we've been doing. The work we've carried out means economic growth in our area has outperformed both Dorset and the UK averages. Employment in all sectors is growing faster than the rest of Dorset. Retained business rates have doubled in 3 years due to growth in businesses, and workplace earnings have increased since 2016. We've continued to support our town centre, working with businesses, and been working on the town centre strategy, particularly in the Convent Walk, Paradise Walk and the Priory area, making the whole area more attractive in various ways, such as replacing benches along the walks, repainting railings and improving the lighting. We should all be proud of what this council has achieved, and the new BCP council certainly has a lot to live up to. On a personal note, I must say that the most memorable part of my time as a councillor was the year I had the honour and privilege to be Mayor of Christchurch. This would be part of my life that I will never forget. Madam Mayor, very soon the ancient borough of Christchurch will pass into history. We will all be part of that history, and now we have to look forward to new and different times. Finally, I would like to thank all the officers for their help and support over the years, but particularly over the past year or so, when times have not always been easy. And I thank my fellow councillors who have all worked hard over so many years for the residents of Christchurch. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Now may I call Councillor Mrs. Sally Durham-Wilkes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Honorary Freeman, Honorary Alderman, distinguished guests, members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen. As you well know, things are very different now from when I was first elected in 1995. A lot has changed in the last 24 years. However, there will always be change. I believe that we, as a borough, are coming to the end of an era. And as we do so, I feel that it is appropriate for me to stand down from my role as a councillor. I look back over the last 24 years with pride at some of the projects in which I was involved. These include the Stour Valley Partnership and now with Paul, the Dorset Waste Partnership, and the close working cooperation with East Dorset District Council. Also, things like the improvements to Duet Gardens, the modern splash park on the Quants, and the refurbishment of Two Rivers Meet Leisure Centre. But Madam Mayor, the work still goes on. Only the other day, I walked past the Saxon Square toilets and was very pleased to see that they are being brought up to the standard of the 21st century. I had the privilege of chairing the Community Services Committee, the Works Committee and the Civic Working Group. And I was pleased and honoured when my fellow members elected me Mayor of our ancient borough of Christchurch. I spent many years working with the business community, liaising with Bournemouth Airport Management, and during my time as Mayor, I introduced monthly business breakfasts in the Mayor's Parlour. Throughout my time as a councillor, I have worked closely with officers and members of this authority and those of East Dorset District Council to deliver our service in the best interests of all the residents of the borough. It has been a pleasure and a privilege to work with you. I've lost my place now. And to have served the residents of the borough to the best of my ability. I'm grateful to you all for all the encouragement and support, and to the way that both members and officers have embraced change in these challenging times. I also believe that we have achieved much together by creating a business-like, forward-thinking authority, which is financially viable, and in doing so, we have laid a firm foundation for the future, and I believe that is our legacy. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Could you switch the microphone off? Thank
Oh.
you. Thank you. I call now Councillor Mrs. Sue Spittle. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't expecting to be called so soon. I'm fortunate, having lived in Christchurch most of my life, as I've bored several of you over the years, my memories of Christchurch Council can go back to 1974. In 1974, Christchurch, until March that year, was in Hampshire, then moved to Dorset. Further changes occurred, not just the world of local government. Christchurch was joined by Burton and Herne, formerly of Ringwood and Fordingbridge Rural Council, to become Christchurch Borough Council. That, obviously, there had been changes before that had been mentioned by the Freeman. Before 1974, the mayor was also leader of the council. Now, those posts are split. But as discussed last night, the town council mayor will also be the chairman and leader of the council. Councillors did not receive an allowance. The mayor would have to submit receipts reflecting purchases of items relevant to their duties. They were expected to fund their duties themselves. These days, councillors receive allowances according to their responsibilities. Councils also appeared more affluent due to the splendour of the celebrations, such as mayor-making. As my mother was a councillor in the 1970s, I was fortunate to attend several civic functions. Lunch following the ceremony of mayor-making was graced by 250 plus people in the ballroom of the King's Arms. The ballroom is no longer, but the hotel remains, as also the former bowling pavilion, which is now used for weddings. Still there, but adapted to keep with the times. The Mayor's Ball was always a grand affair attended by over 200 to 300, held in the ballroom of Pontin's holiday camp, and finished in the early hours of the next day, with soup being offered before leaving. So Pontin's is no more, but on the site of is the luxurious and trend-setting Captain's Club, where the Mayor's Ball was recently in rooms far smaller than that used in 1974. 1974, the Civic Offices, which were wooden huts, stretched down almost to the mill stream from the Georgian building now known as the Mayor's Parlour. The offices were demolished to provide a new car park and shopping centre and relocated to the present building we are in today. But the Mayor's Parlour still remains. Office life was so different. The clatter of typewriters could be heard from the typing pool, inhabited by ladies, whilst the gentlemen either dictated letters to their secretaries or into recording machines. All mail went by post, all telephone calls through reception. These days, each officer and also each councillor have their own computers, sometimes with 2 or 3 screens from which emails, spreadsheets and calls evolve. Yes, girls, it has been a long journey, but we achieved equality through the years, and I hope that's not too political. The mode d'emploi may have changed, but the several services remain the same. The need for community halls were not so great in the 1970s. They tended to be attached to churches, except for the Druitt Hall. Over the years, several community halls have been built out of town, funded through Section 106 agreements with developers, whilst the Druitt Hall remains, cherished by many. Affordable social housing has seen a major change in 1974. Social housing in Christchurch was owned and managed by the council. Similar to other councils at the time, and in accordance with the government initiative, tenants were offered substantial discounts to enable them to buy the houses they rented. Also, in 1991, and this is thanks to Freeman John Lofts, following the emergence of housing associations, the majority of the housing stock from Christchurch was sold to the newly formed Twynham Housing Association. These, Madam Mayor, are just a few examples of how things have changed over the 45 years that Christchurch has been a borough that I can remember. In addition, may I remind members, the Priory remains. The Vicar of Christchurch remains, although we have had changes. And through the new Town Council, the Mayoralty and Coat of Arms will remain, and so will Christchurch, a beautiful, historical and progressive town, like our sister city, Christchurch, New Zealand, you mentioned earlier tonight, Madam Mayor, and I was fortunate to visit, self-funded, I hasten to add, during my first mayoralty in 2005. But Christchurch, New Zealand, despite so many incidents, it too has survived, as will Christchurch, UK. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Now may I call Councillor Mrs Denise Jones. Mrs Jones, if it's easier to sit down, do. You're okay, thank you.
You wouldn't want me to forget. Madam Mayor, Honorary Freeman, Father Charles, guests, encompassed about by so great a cloud of witnesses. That's one of my favourite quotations. It's at the beginning of Hebrews chapter 12, and it follows a long account of men of God and their journey of faith. People such as Enoch, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, David. And I was thinking about this final meeting tonight and about my time serving on this council. I knew I must pay tribute to the fact that always I've been conscious of our own so great a cloud of witnesses listed in this special chamber of ours. There they are, listed mainly on the back wall. The mayors of Christchurch, beginning with John Lesham in 1297. Some listed many times, such as Eric Spreadbury, others only once. Names picked at random: William Nutkins, a favourite of mine, John Welshman, Thomas Stevens, George Ferry, Samuel Bemster. It was actually in this chamber that I was so honoured to actually be declared a councillor for the Grange ward in 2007, following the final count. Here I witnessed a never-to-be-forgotten referendum in 2017. Here in this chamber, I stood as mayor under those boards with Brianne Dalziel, the first serving mayor of Christchurch, to visit us in July 2014. Later in the day, we signed an agreement, or an affirmation more, of continued friendship between our towns.
It stood in recent years right next to the Book of Condolence, which is outside the council chamber now, showing our sympathy at the atrocities that have been recently committed there. And we have ties that can never be broken. Students of many nationalities, from Hungarian, German, Japanese, have heard the history of our town in this chamber and looked with awe at our regalia. And of course, on numerous occasions, innumerable ones, our residents have come to this chamber with their deeply held concerns. So, at the end of this particular chapter, let's remember all our cloud of witnesses, not just the names, but their colleagues, their officials, the townspeople who witnessed joys and sorrows and battles both lost and won.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I call Councillor David Jones, please?
Madam Mayor, Honorary Friedman, Honorary Alderman, Father Charles, distinguished guests, members of council. I feel particularly humble after the speeches that we've heard. I have played such an insignificant part in a borough whose history as a borough goes back at the very least to the 1100s. And so it's hardly fitting that I should be making a formal tribute to the borough. But I would like to pick up on two things that I'd particularly like to highlight. For 13 of the 20 years I have served this community as a councillor, I have been the chairman or the acting chairman of the planning committee. Now, planning, I think, is one of the most visible ways in which a council can affect its population. If planning is done carefully and is done with knowledge of the area, intimate knowledge of the area, you will find results that the town needs. And I'm very pleased in this respect to have been involved with the regeneration of Somerford, Grange Ward in particular, in my county council division. And the points that I bring that I'm particularly proud of are the new homes on Scott's Green and Street Mount, the fantastic work that has inspired the Somerford Arc, and which I understand Sovereign actually looking at now as a model for other housing organisations they have. But I'm particularly pleased about the way this was done. We did not go to the residents and say, this is what you want, we will give it to you. We said to them, what do you want? And they told us, and as a result, you can see the massive improvements in that area. Now, the other highlight that is so important to me is the establishment of our new town council. I propose a motion which set the wheels rolling when Mr. Javed gave his minded to approve decision. I was involved in the warding process, developing the council, and now Christchurch Town Council has its own town clerk, and on the 6th of May, the town council will spring to life. Now, I've heard it said that the town council is a completely new council, and yes, that is true. But it's also been referred to that there's another dimension. The town council will have the borough's coat of arms, the borough's flag, the borough's maces and the borough's motto. Now, Councillor Bungie pinched my line on this one, but I will come back to it. The council's motto is for fidelity and freedom. For fidelity and freedom. If the new councillors approach their work on forming and establishing the new town council on those precepts, then I believe that the new council will be in an excellent position to spread the light of him whose name our town bears in a world that will grow ever darker. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Councillor. Could you switch your microphone off? Councillor Clarebarth, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I didn't expect to speak right now, but anyway, thank you. Madam Mayor, members and all our distinguished guests. My memories focus on the people that I've been fortunate enough to meet and work alongside as a councillor of Christchurch for 8 years. First to my fellow councillors. We haven't always agreed, but that's democracy. However, I'm sure we are in agreement that what we have is a common cause to do the very best for Christchurch and its wonderful community. My thanks to the many volunteers from our fantastic community, all working tirelessly together to keep Christchurch the special place we all love. Christchurch and Highcliffe Food Festivals, the Christmas Festival, Mudderford Fun Day, CAD Arts, Stomping on the Quamps, Christchurch Supercars, to the many volunteers at the Regent Centre, Tourist Information Centre, Highcliffe Castle, Friends of Stampit Marsh, the History Society, the Red House Museum, the many residents I worked with to get the zigzag path reopened, those that run the beach cleans, and the fantastic Chamber of Trade, the Round Table and Rotary. Too many individuals to risk naming anyone in particular, and I've only got 3 minutes, so my apologies for any organisations that I've not mentioned. These are the ones that I've happened to work with. And then there are the officers that I've worked with on specific projects that have created so many opportunities and benefits locally. Dave Barnes and his economic development team, setting up our growth strategy, creating so many new opportunities by increasing skilled employment and supporting our business community. The housing team, Kathy and Shelley, and all of their teams, at the forefront of implementing revised policies to find better ways to support people into long-term housing. Judith Plumley, who's been at the forefront of some challenging times and yet always manages to keep smiling throughout. Gary Foyle, John Ross and the coastal teams who work tirelessly to keep our open spaces looking so great. The democratic, legal and regularity teams who have steered us through so many challenges. Our financial team who made sure that we kept within our limited budget whilst delivering top quality services. Our comms team, headed up by Matty, for keeping everybody informed. And all those that I haven't mentioned who have contributed so much to Christchurch Council working for our community. And of course, the man who kept everything going, keeping his staff motivated and positive throughout what has been a truly challenging few years. David McIntosh, thank you so much. Thank you to every one of our fantastic staff at Christchurch Council and to our wonderful community of volunteers for doing your bit to keep Christchurch so special. It's the people who make Christchurch special. Thank you for all you've done.
Now may I call Councillor Ray Nottage.
Madam Honorary Freeman, Alderman, distinguished guests, members of the public, and the excellent Charles Stewart, Vicar of Christchurch. I was elected to represent my community in 2007. And recollections of the last 12 years would span beyond the 3 minutes allocation, so I have concentrated just on words that generate my highlights and memories. First word is officers, and our thoughts and appreciation for those that are with us and those that have moved on or retired. In my experience, I have never seen such dedication, professionalism throughout the most challenging of times in their execution of their duties in a member-led council. And wherever they are, our thanks should go out to them. Next is the word outcomes. Those objectives set and achieved in all the projects, from wildflowers to sophisticated finance, from waste to well-being, from nature reserves to commerce, indeed, for everything the council has done over the last 12 years to make things just a little bit better for our community. So to my next word, which is partnership, and a commendation to those fortunate enough to have enjoyed working with Christchurch Borough Council over the last turbulent years, with shared objectives designed to deliver more for less, again, for the benefit of our community. And I could not leave this without paying special regard to all our friends at East Dorset District Council. Madam Mayor, in the rough and tumble of local politics, the word community has been hugely important. And with that, a vibrancy in Christchurch, which has determined objective parameters to control over ambition. And spinning from that, all the volunteers and contribution which they have made, which has been and still is at the heart of this unique and ancient town. Our thanks and appreciation to each and every one of those volunteers that give their time to this borough of Christchurch. Madam Mayor, words like care and compassion, resulting in our dementia-friendly town, and shown just recently to our dear friends in New Zealand. And finally, Madam Mayor, the word remembrance, and the privilege it has been to be part of the British Legion service to remember those that gave their lives for us to have a future. And within this word, a very special experience of the planting of the Holocaust tree in the Quamps in 2015. A very simple gesture of remembrance, attended initially by a few, but at the last gathering and with support from schools and very special friends, attended by the many. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Now can I call on Councillor Margaret Phipps? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, councillors, guests. I have been a member of this council only since 2011, having heard all these other councillors have been here for such a long time. But during that time, I believe I have played an active part in its business, having been portfolio holder for the environment from the outset, and in the last year, chairman of Community Committee. Many members, as I've said, have served on this council for much longer, but I have been on Herne Parish Council since 1995, and I've had dealings with Christchurch Council since then, and indeed known many members and officers for a very long time, a few, all of those 24 years. I can't mention everything tonight. I don't intend to. And we are just asked for highlights and achievements. So I'm going to just come up with a couple really that I remember well. Along the way, I have campaigned on many issues, and quite often against the establishment, whichever body or organisation that might have been at the time, but always in support of local residents' wishes and views. And those of you who know me will be aware of my love for the great outdoors. And when I see it threatened, I can get a bit het up about it. Therefore, notable for me are a couple of environmental successes. When I launched a campaign to save Herne's forests, you might remember the government of the day brought forward a bit of a harebrained scheme to privatise the Forestry Commission areas. And we all envisaged development companies buying up our forests and trying to concrete them over, which I don't think anybody really thought was a very good idea. We got thousands of signatures from across this borough and beyond on a petition which was presented to our MP, and he gave it to the then Prime Minister. Due to the overwhelming opposition, not only from here but across the country, that plan was abandoned by the government, and we had played our part, and we all won the day. But of course the biggest campaign, which actually hasn't been mentioned yet, in which I was involved, was the proposal for the Navitas Bay Wind Farm along the World Heritage Jurassic coastline. I was Environment Portfolio Holder for this council at that time, so I effectively took a councillor lead on our opposition, and I worked very hard with everybody here, other councillors and officers. A lot of work was put into this to put forward our very strong objections. I know the general public also worked very hard on it. There was a lot went into this. The campaign pretty much took me over for quite a very, very long time. I'm sure you all remember how long it took. And in Herne Parish, I managed to get funding for a biodiversity survey of the forest to catalogue all the flora and fauna. But this was for ammunition to oppose the proposed cable route. It wasn't just what was going to happen out at sea, because the trenching was going to devastate the area with 40-metre wide trenching straight through the forest. As we all know, yet again the south coast won the day, and our coastline remains unspoilt. So those are my two, I think, main recollections. And everybody has so far thanked everybody for all their work. I'd like to do the same, councillors and officers. But we're here tonight not only to reminisce, but to say goodbye to this great council which has served the residents of Christchurch so well over so many years and successfully succeeded in maintaining its wonderful heritage. I haven't really got much more to say, except that I think this is a very, very sad day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, may I call Councillor Janet Abbott?
I hope I can get the titles right. I'm still learning. Madam Mayor, distinguished guests, welcome guests and members. As one of Christchurch's newest councillors, I haven't any past history to relate of my time as a councillor, so it's kind of personal. If asked for highlights, I'd say that the last 4 years have all been a highlight. There have been so many ups and downs during this time and much to learn. I would like to thank my fellow councillors who welcomed me so warmly into the council, and thank them also for the plentiful advice they've shared with me as to procedures and, most importantly, how to work the coffee machine. Also, I thank officers and switchboards of both Christchurch and Dorset County Council offices for their patience with me pestering them with various requests and questions and demands. Because of my being a councillor, it's been an honour to have got to know many residents of both mine and other wards, who otherwise I would not have met. If I have any particular highlights of the last 4 years, it would be when one of the residents in Grainboard told me that when they keep forgetting I'm a councillor and they think of me as a friend. And to me, that's very big part of being a councillor. That would be one of my most precious memories of my first and sadly last experience as a borough councillor for this very, very special town, the ancient borough of Christchurch.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Paul Hilliard, you'd like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Honorary Freeman, distinguished guests. Having been a councillor for just over 6 years, I have been in a position to see Christchurch Borough Council have to adapt significantly to change and be flexible in the face of severe central government funding cuts. I congratulate the officers and councillors who have worked hard to make alliances with East Dorset District Council, Stour Valley and Pool Partnership and the Dorset Waste Partnership so groundbreaking and successful, often winning national awards. I've always been careful to give an accurate perspective to residents throughout the period of change, communicating impacts as well as the benefits. Resident surveys have shown that on the whole, we have done a sound job in maintaining and delivering core frontline services. This would not have been possible without the great efforts of council staff who fulfil their duties so comprehensively, and also the huge band of community volunteers. They care so much for their borough, providing their time along with their particular skills and interests to complement the council. I hope the transition into the BCP Council goes seamlessly for all residents, officers and community volunteers, with Christchurch Town Council providing an important role in continuing the historic legacy of the borough into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, members. Now I'm going to ask David McIntosh, our Chief Executive and Town Clerk, if he'd like to say a few words.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, members, and good evening to everyone in the room. It's so good to see so many people here on this last meeting of the Council. Madam Mayor, I thought I'd stand, which is unusual, but it seems appropriate, and thank you very much for affording me the opportunity to speak under this item on your agenda. As members have pointed out, this is a historic period in the delivery of local government services in Christchurch, and we are on the eve of the transition from the long-standing and successful two-tier system into a unitary council for Bournemouth and Christchurch and Poole. While we all need to look forward and we need to support the creation of the new council, it's also right that we take this opportunity to reflect on the achievements of Christchurch Borough Council. I was very pleased indeed to be appointed as the Joint Chief Executive for Christchurch and East Dorset at the end of 2010, and so I reflect on the last 9 years with a great deal of pride about what the staff have achieved in that time. It was a bold move for this council to partner with East Dorset and also to be founding members of the Dorset Waste Partnership and the original Stour Valley Partnership. And then it was equally bold to further develop the way that we work and to invest in the facilities and the technology which have allowed us to put in place a modern and flexible approach to best serve the public. But change rarely happens without a consequence, and so bringing about transformation has also meant having to deal with many difficult and challenging situations. The staff have responded fantastically well to all that we've asked them to do. They have adopted new ways of doing things. They've brought forward innovative ideas to improve services. They have continued to respond to a rising public expectation and managed increasingly complex situations. And they've done all of that with increasingly less resource to hand. I can only congratulate and thank each and every one of them for their tremendous support and hard work. And it's through their collective efforts that we've been able to create an organisation which is amongst the best in local government. And that is borne out by the number of the numerous national awards that we've won, both for our work as a council as a whole, as well as excellence in individual service areas. And they should all take great pride in what they've achieved. I would like in particular to thank my senior colleagues on the corporate team. Two of them are here this evening, and also past members of the corporate team. These senior jobs in local government over the last 9 years are not easy, and this has not been the easiest time in local government in which to deliver. So, Madam Mayor, as a significant chapter of local government in Dorset comes to a close and a new one begins, can I wish all members and staff the very best for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, Deputy Mayor, you'd like to speak, I'm sure.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Honorary Freeman, members, ladies and gentlemen. May I thank the Mayor for arranging this very special council meeting. It's great to see everyone in their robes. I have certainly enjoyed serving you as your Deputy Mayor. It has been a real privilege attending any engagements with you. You have made sure you always promoted our ancient borough in a most professional way at every opportunity. Standing in for you when you had alternative engagements was also truly most memorable. Thank you. I'm also extremely proud to have presented this council for nearly 24 years. I was elected to the Special Ancient Borough Council, which is steeped in tradition, remembering always that we are elected to serve the population of Christchurch. I'm delighted to have served the residents of Christchurch and gained a considerable amount of pride by helping those who have problems. Spearheading the introduction of having pavements installed in front of a row of Victorian cottages in the town centre for improving pedestrian safety was a very satisfying achievement. Another accomplishment was encouraging residents to apply for residential parking schemes in many roads in the town centre, which ensures them a parking space. Having lights installed along the riverside path on Christchurch Quay is very satisfying, with trees planted in Mayor's Mead car park, which adds to the ambience of the area. Working with residents in our offices to gain the Green Flag Award on Christchurch Quay for several years is most gratifying. Oh, sorry. The most memorable event during my time as councillor was when I was elected the Mayor of the Ancient Borough, 2012-13. It was a truly special year for my wife, Mayoress Sally, and our family. I was also fortunate that our country was celebrating our Queen's Diamond Jubilee, which ensures we will always remember this exceptional year. Added to this, the Olympic Games were taking place. Thousands of residents and visitors were thrilled to watch the Olympic torch being paraded through our ancient town. At the end of the year, we were also very fortunate to be given special seats by our MP to attend the Tripping of the Colour. To see the royal family and the military delivering such a spectacular display of professionalism was so impressive. Councillors and friends, we can all be very proud of serving the people of Christchurch, ensuring our council is in such good shape, leaving many legacies for our beloved town, of which we can all be exceptionally proud. Madam Mayor, hundreds of mayors have preceded you. Tonight you have made history by being the last mayor of Christchurch. You've been truly a fabulous last mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, members. I'm going to make the last speech. I really feel that everybody has said everything that I was going to say. And so really, members, I thank you very much for all the happy memories and obviously for the service you've all given to the people of our borough. And in this year as the mayor, as we've pointed out, the last mayor of the ancient borough, I've met so many wonderful people, and they've all had a tale to tell of the borough, and mostly, luckily, how they've been helped. And councillors do make their mark in many, many ways on this town. This was one reason I became a councillor. So much of what we actually do is housekeeping, albeit on a larger scale. So we don't only empty our own pedal bin, we empty everybody else's wheelie bin as well. Well, that's one of the things I could be very proud of, actually, emptying the bins. I know it's very basic, but basic things are what we do. And we have an efficient and cost-effective emptying of all the bins across this area because of the decision we made to go with DWP. And that's ensured that we've had a very good service. But as well as the housekeeping, Christchurch Borough Council through the years has had a bigger impact on our community. And my own community service started as a volunteer. I worked on projects to improve and preserve the area, from which I went on to be elected and serve on 4 councils. And like my fellow councillors, my commitment is still to improving the life of our community. So when one is a councillor, it's not about your own achievements, it's about what we can deliver working together for the people of our town. And despite the best efforts and intentions of councillors, much of it isn't possible without the help of our volunteers. I think our Borough Council has been a shining example in the many ways we've served our community. My own thoughts and memories, for example, are of the borough engineers. I'm sorry, I'm using very basic things here, the bins, the engineers, but they had a wonderful success in our coastal defences. And I've been involved in that through SCOPAC, which not many people have ever heard of, but it's a very good body. It covers the coast. And our engineers have done a wonderful job on our coastline. And I can also commend our borough's ongoing work, in which I've been very much involved in preservation and improvement and interpretation of our heritage. And I think we should be justly proud of that. And we can continue this work in the future with Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Unitary Council. And of course we can be proud of what we called our Golden Legacy projects, the recreational facilities, the new coastal park we have created in our last years. So through this period of our existence, Christchurch Borough Council has made a difference. We've had some of the finest officers in the country, and with them we have developed ways of working which are the envy of other boroughs and other bodies in the country in innovation and efficiency. For example, this live streaming of our meetings, residents can see what we do. Our officers have been as dedicated and professional as one could expect, and then more so. And may I thank them formally for their diligence, their perseverance. And I know these final years have been a particularly challenging period. And a particularly challenging task has actually been this swift formation of the town and parish councils called for by this local government reorganisation. And again, for this, we thank our officers. The Christchurch Town Council is the vehicle to preserve all our civic regalia and the historical artefacts and documents. It will also give our residents a strong voice in the continuation of the preservation of our heritage. So, the mayoralty of the borough ends on Sunday. I continue in the new role of the mayor of the shadow Christchurch Town Council until the elected town councillors put forward their own candidate. And as you know, we have planned for a ceremony which will be held this May in the Priory, thanks to my chaplain. And I hope that all here will attend this commemoration of the borough and welcome the new town council. And I must apologise to the officers, I really forgot to write this, so there's no need to minute it. But in the votes of thanks that I did earlier, I forgot to thank the press for their coverage over the years. I'm not sure if they've been covering the council for the 700 years that there has been a council, but one person who has been covering Christchurch Council for a long, long time is Mr. Andy Martin. And I happen to know that covering this council was his first job as a trainee on the New Milton Advertiser, and that was back in 1983, and quite a way back. and in what I understand is something of an accident of timing, Andy has announced today that he is retiring in the summer from his role as editor and news editor of the Echo after 31 years at the paper. So I thank the press for keeping us all on the straight and narrow and ensuring that we work for the residents. I'm sure Andy will have plenty of time now for other things. He's going to be an associate editor and an ambassador, I gather, and perhaps even some politics. Members, guests, there's not a lot else to say this evening. We're going to go through the minutes of this meeting, and then once we've done that, we will adjourn, forever, I suppose. I hadn't actually planned that bit. But, members, we have got for you a memento which Lillian is going to kindly take round. You've all got a personal certificate, which I hope you like. Sorry, Councillor Jameson.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I was just saying I'm sure we can pick up the frames later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jameson. You can't please all the people all the time, or half of them ever. Thank you very much, councillors. Right, now we go through the... Can we go through the minutes? Yeah, so we've got to circulate. Members, while we're circulating the minutes, you will also get your certificates of long service or short service, whichever. Can I ask that you scan the minutes? I think that what we've said tonight will go in the minutes more or less as we intended it. I know I went off message a bit. So please look at the minutes now for us. You're kidding. Really?
I don't know.
Apparently the clock has stopped.
I don't know when it has to be.
Planned.
I've got the switch under here.
My God, are you sure, Charles?
Well, I've been
looking at it for minutes and it hasn't moved.
Well,
what time do you? No, it's
No,
20.
actually,
It's 20 minutes. You are.
I think he's wrong. Yes.
You've had a god.
well, something's wrong.
You've had a god moment, have you? Golly, that was horrible. Oh, thank you. Right, have I got to?
So we're on item 11 also.
Yes, okay.
To approve the minutes.
Oh, they're all flicking through.
I'll propose that in a second now.
Which is hopefully this time going to be the proper case.
I did Bernie's correction when it was
Oh, okay.
the apology, so
Jolly
that's
good.
in now.
Okay, fine. So these are the last minutes then?
We need to record the end time, which you've taken the vote. And you need to record the end time.
Oh yes, of course. Well, that's why the clock has stopped.
Pause in a second, take the vote,
Yeah.
and then say I close this meeting at
Yes, okay.
7:21.
Members.
Just to say, it was a trick of the light. It is still working.
Right. Members, have you all had a chance to look at the minutes and approve them? Councillor Davis, your alteration has been inserted. Have you seen that?
Are you asking me to propose the minutes, Madam?
No, Councillor Davis. Thank you. Right, I am asking if members are content, can we have a proposer and seconder for those minutes?
Madam Mayor, I formally rise to propose that the minutes of the last meeting of Christchurch Borough Council be formally accepted. And I believe I have a seconder in the Deputy Leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very happy to. I'm not happy tonight, but I'm very happy to second the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Members, do we all accept the minutes tonight?
Unanimous, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. And now I bring this meeting to an end, and the time is 7:22. Thank you, councillors. There is a buffet in the committee room if you want to follow me through. That's for everybody.
Thumbs up.